trying to figure out what was going on with you all. First of all, let me make one comment. Black people don't like a whole bunch of cold weather, okay? All right? So you see me with my present, my ATU blanket on. I'm enjoying my gifts right away because it is needed. I felt like a chocolate popsicle sitting over there. Yeah. First, let me say that it feels real good to be back in the house of ATU. I look at my two brothers who I love dearly, and I begin to smile. Oh, I see my sister sitting. Hey, Jackie, how you doing, girl? Now, let me warn you all right? I'm from South Carolina, so I'm gonna bust up the King's English as I go on to do my speech. If you're looking for someone so proper and dignified, she's not standing here. I'm here instead. Are we together so far? Okay. Let me tell you this, too. I give honor to God, but he ain't through with me yet. Every now and then a bad word might slip out, so I apologize to all of you who I might offend. I'm going to try real hard not to say anything ugly. While we okay still? We all right? All right. Now, let me start by thanking you for the invitation to be with you, Mr. President. And let me thank my brother, Oscar Owens, for always being there for me. No matter what is going on, he is there. And when I say that, I'm talking about your union, being the union that I can always count on. And it makes me so proud to know that I can say that. And to look across this room, y'all are growing like crazy. And it's looking real good. And I say that with a sense of pride because quiet as it's kept, there ain't a whole bunch of unions out there growing as fast as y'all. You know what I'm saying? And that's the truth. That is the God-heaven truth. And I say to, I believe I can say this now, Jackie, can I? Madam President of the Central Labor Council, can I say that? Do you all know that that bad sister right there has been elected president of the Central Labor Council for Metropolitan DC? Yes, yes, yes. Stand up, Jackie. Let me just brag on you. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I say that with such pride because it feels real good. Thank you. Not only is it cold, but I'm running at the eyes because they got a fan on too. Y'all trying to kill a black woman up here. But I say that because it feels real good to be able to say, Madam President. And I want you to know that your brothers and sisters inside of APRI will be there for you in the DC area, no matter what you need or how you need it. And we don't mind fighting. We know how to grease up and take our earrings and our high heel shoes off and get down and get with it. So we're ready anytime you need. There are a number of APRI activists in the room right now. I know at least 3 are here. So if you're here, wave your hand, let me know that I got some family out there. All right, I see you over. I just saw you down in Newport News. No, not Newport News, outside of Hampton Roads, right? Sister, tell me your name again. Now, you were louder than that when you were out on the golf course acting up. Amanda. Y'all should have seen her on the golf court, on the cart, riding around going, hey. You know, they were out there doing the business, but also having a good time because in Virginia, which is a very important state for us, during these upcoming elections, it's going to take folks to do the work in that state to make a difference. And ATU was represented there in a number of ways. That sister right there was doing her job. So I want to publicly say before your brothers and sisters, I'm proud of what you do. I'm proud of the work that you do, and thank you for it. Virginia ain't easy, but we're going to be counting on you to do what you got to do. Did I see any other hands of APRI activists out here? Stanley, where are you? I know I saw your face earlier. Right here. You don't want to own me this morning, huh? Okay, activist member doing the right thing. But as I jump through recognizing family and saying hello, y'all, I do have a speech, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to keep it on the timeline, Mr. President, I promise you. But I like to be informal because that's who I am. Oscar mentioned to you that I come out of a sewing operation. I do. My mother, who is an activist, sewed collars on shirts in a manufacturing plant called Manhattan Shirt Factory in Charleston, South Carolina, where I'm from. And I went into that same shop to learn how to do the same thing. But when I went into that shop, my mother taught me walking through the door that because I was a worker going in to do that kind of work, that I didn't have to leave my dignity at the door. I did not have to leave my dignity at the door. I walked through those doors knowing that there was a job to do. And my mother, who's 85 years old now, managed to get me fired from just about every job I had when I was coming up because she had a big mouth. She stood 6 foot at her height in her prime. At 85 now, she's probably about 5'10", 5'11", but she's still got a big mouth, and every day, because I'm blessed to have her with me now, she reminds me, it ain't never gonna be about you. Understand that. As long as you are in the labor movement, it's about the people that you represent, and when you get it twisted, it's time for you to go. It ain't about you. So having that foundation is what I cherish the most. As I was preparing to come to visit with you all, I got a chance to do a little bit of looking and searching too. Oscar keeps me pretty well informed about what's going on in your union, and when he was talking with such pride about how much y'all were growing, I was like, go on, y'all. And a part of it was talking about the courage that that involved and how people all across this country, here in Canada, as well as in the US, were doing the job of communicating better with one another. And that's what it takes. A lot of times we get off the real path by not even knowing how to communicate with one another. Y'all following me so far? Am I still making sense? Okay, because some of us sisters, no matter what the color is, we can communicate without saying a word, can't we? We can look at you and do one of these. And you know right away what we're thinking, right? And if it gets real sisterly, we put our hands on that hip and step back in that back leg, and you still know what we're talking about. All right, and brothers, y'all communicate too. We see it, because we don't even have to turn around when we walk past you. We know where your eyes are. You understand what I'm saying? Like I see you right now. I see you. But it's about being able to do that no word speak that keeps us strong, that no word speak that makes us understand that we are family, that no word speak that lets us know that what we're working for is one thing that we don't have to talk to death, but we have to work to death in order to make it be about something. That's who we are as trade unionists. That's who we are. Now, I listened to Oscar when he told me the new number, 198,000. Isn't that what you told me, Oscar? 198,000. And every single day when I make my journey from my home or wherever I happen to be to where I'm going, I see you evident all over the place. Every bus that rolls down the street, every mode of transportation that takes us from point A to point B, the conscious effort that you have to put in your own head every day before you get behind the wheel or do whatever it is your job to deal with people is the one that I most admire about what you do, because I know folks. Some people get on your bus with a distinct intention of pissing you off. Some folk get on your vehicle of mode of transportation with the distinct intention of becoming difficult or coming through your turnstiles or coming through wherever, of making your job more and more difficult. But every time I see one of your professionals doing what they do, it's most times greeting somebody with a smile and saying, "Good morning, how you doing? How's everything going?" Even when that person just looks at you and grunt. And you know they know how to speak English, but they don't do it anyway. But that's who you are. The face that you put on this union is so important. I saw somewhere over the last couple of days you were recognizing a man in, and y'all help me, I forget what city, I think it might have been Atlanta, who had been driving a bus for what, 45 years? Was it 45 years, y'all? North Carolina. North Carolina. 47 years. Is that how many it was? And at the age of 70, he hit 70, right? Yeah. He decided to retire. But yeah, I'm warming up now, baby. But the way that the community and the people that surrounded him responded to his retirement spoke to what you hear that makes a difference in the work that you do. You know the old Negro song that says, "Let the work I've done speak for me"? Well, when this brother retired, because it was on the news piece that you all have going on too, people from the community who hadn't even taken the bus used to come by just to say good morning to him because he had provided a service and a kindness that they didn't get elsewhere. People who wanted to come to say goodbye to his last run came out and stood and took pictures and shook his hand and said thank you. People who didn't even know his name stood and paid homage to the service that he had given. That speaks volumes to the kind of service that you provide. That's not unusual. That's who ATU is. And that's dignity. That's dignity. That is dignity. Now, I hesitate just a little bit to brag so much about you all, but I'm going to say it anyway. When you all bought the Labor College, after other folk had decided to let it go down, roll down, fall apart, do whatever, and your union stepped up to the plate and made a workers' decision to keep not only that building and institution alive, but the principle of learning and the pride that comes with having your own intact. Folks got to talking about it. ATU's gonna do this? I acted like I was a member. I said, yeah, because they know what time it is. You know? Yeah. You know what time it is. If you don't have your own, where are you going? Where are you going to get the education? Because the principle of training and learning and being your best came out of some of the things that Jonathan was talking about earlier. I've known Jonathan for more than 30 years. Jonathan and I come from the same parent union. I went to Alinsky's trainings in the IAF, ran one of the first coups against the IAF that had ever been run when they tried to teach us about organizing up at Wagner College, which was fun to watch them twirl just a little bit. But I told y'all I'm from South Carolina. If we want to know what you're made out of, we're going to try you, okay? But Jonathan has been bragging about this union also. The word about the progressiveness of this leadership is not just in this house, but it's traveling through the labor movement like you would not believe. Sometimes your own family don't get it, but everybody else is getting it. I am so proud of what you all are doing. Our bank, the Amalgamated Bank, last week held its meeting, first off-site meeting, at the Tommy Douglas Center. All of those fancy talking folks who are just plain folk like us because it is a union bank, we met for 2 days at the facility, and it's off the chain, y'all. The food is good, the people are nice, the beds are comfortable, the facilities all work. Y'all got it going on. And guess what? A whole heap more of us are going to be coming up there as well. For sure, for sure. Now, I talk about your leadership, but your membership is cutting up too. Yeah, y'all can do the thing now. In particular, I want to highlight one of the many actions that your union took a stand on in the community. Jonathan talked about community, and your officers told me to mention the coalition as I spoke this morning. I was in Grand Rapids for an event, an APRI event. But before I got there, I heard about this brother in Grand Rapids who had been just taking names and doing his thing. When I got there, and I understand it's only about a 5.5-hour drive from here, Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? Well, that's the last somebody told me, so I'm repeating it. Now, in January, to be exact, ATU brothers and sisters joined forces with the APRI Grand Chapter to stand with our brothers and sisters in Flint, Michigan, around the debate about the water crisis. I didn't understand why there had to be a debate at all. Because if you can't bathe in it, you can't cook with it, you can't drink it, there's a problem, don't you think? It's not rocket science that something is wrong. There was an article in the Grand Rapids Business Journal that was titled, "Transit Workers Throw Snyder Under the Bus." Sound like a pretty good place for his sorry behind anyway. I'm sorry, Oscar, I'm sorry. The article stated that more than 300 members of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 836 in nearby Grand Rapids joined a growing chorus of environmentalists, labor, and political groups to demand that Governor Rick Snyder be held accountable and resign his post immediately. Now listen to what one of your folks said. "We live in a state where it's illegal for a public worker to strike when he is wrong on the job, but it's perfectly legal for a governor to stop doing his job while his administration incorporates an incompetence portion by poisoning those of an entire city." Now that's backwards, he said. And guess who was saying all of that mouthful and raising his hand and pointing in people's faces? That was your local 836 president, Richard Jackson. Is Richard in this room? Richard, are you in the room? Are you anywhere in this room, Richard? There you are. Now, you didn't know I was going to call you out, but boy, you were bringing smoke in Grand Rapids. Yes, you were. Give him a round of applause. Stand up, Richard. Stand up. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Now, when Rashad got to talking, his shoulders got to throwing back, and he started stepping back in his legs like he was getting ready to do something. And do something he did, because he has hung in there from the beginning of the struggle, right now, still active, and calling people out who are doing wrong. ATU, you should be proud of that kind of leadership. You are really, really representing your union well, really representing him well. Now, I call attention to that for a couple of reasons. The stance that your union takes, not just in Grand Rapids, but across this country, speaks volumes to what your president has deemed, along with your leadership, as the theme for your convention, that ATU drives justice. You're driving justice. People see it, they know it, they talk about it. And when it was time for us to do even more, Rashad was one of the voices that made APRI move forward, because at our national conference, right, Oscar, we had the mayor of Flint to come, and people started walking from the floor of that conference, making contributions to help the children of Flint and to help the people of Flint. And they gave $35,500 out of their pockets and from their chapters to help that cause. Now, and I'm gonna say this, a lot of people will make a pledge when there's a microphone and go ahead and do what they're gonna do. You know, it's a good moment to look big time. Well, we recorded it. That's right. We have everybody's name and their picture and their mouth as they were saying how much they were gonna give, and we called a question on them. Send in your check for X number of dollars, because that's what you said you were giving to Flint. Richard, you taught us well. Thank you very much for doing that. Now, I want to say two other things to you before I take my seat. I know that my good sister, Nina Turner, was here, and covered politics from Amazing Grace to a floating opportunity if she did what she normally does. Did she walk the floor too, y'all? That's just, oh Lord, we love her to death. But Nina is the kind of person that's not going to tell you anything that's wrong. You may not like what's coming out of her mouth, I always do, but she will tell you what is the truth. And a good part of that is because truth is the thing that will set you free. Now, your union took an unprincipled position, according to the rest of them folks, and decided to back Bernie Sanders during the national election, right? Well, there are a lot of trade unionists who stand and do this and this for the ATU, for standing strong and standing on principle during the course of the election. So we salute you for that. And to see the work that has happened as a result of the push of not having your votes or your positions taken for granted has been a refreshing piece. Because all before they could put one person in one category, another person in another, and say that's all that we need to do with them. Well, now people are calling folks out. And as a result of that, folks around the country are still talking about the main issues that need to stay focused as we move forward. The one thing that I can say about you all is that you're fighters, and you've got a brother who is president of the Canadian Union, who made a statement and said, you know, we will fight you. And I don't know if y'all ever heard him say the other part, because he said before, when I heard him, until hell freezes over. And once the ice forms, we will continue to fight you on the ice. That's determination. That's the fighting spirit. That's the kind of peace that will carry you through and make sure that all of it goes to where it needs to go in the fight that you have in order to protect your rates, in order to increase the pensions, in order to protect the rights of the drivers. You got folks that are jumping on buses and attacking bus drivers. It takes a special kind of person not to hit them back. Because I tell you, I would have to call on Jesus, Mary, and Joseph to keep from knocking somebody right dead in their face if they do that the way that I've seen it occurring across this country. When you train for leadership, that's a part of what you get, and that's the kind of foundation that you bring in the form of leaders. Asa Philip Randolph taught us a number of things. Our great founder and the organizer of the Institute. He told a story about when he and his brothers were little boys in Crescent City, Florida, and his father was a pastor. Now, his father was always a righteous man, and his mother was always the good first lady of the church. And it was in the heart of the most segregated town of this country. So people thought that Randolph was always the gentle giant that he became described as and was just always so very peaceful because he had a father who was a minister. Randolph's father and the deacons of his church watched one night as a black man, was being taken to the jailhouse for whatever the crime was. It didn't matter, because during that time you got taken to the jailhouse, but very seldom did you get to leave, because there was this piece that was called strange fruit that existed then. And for some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, the lynchings and the hangings that went on in the dark of night. Well, Randolph's father decided that on this particular night it was not going to happen. And he reached, I guess, for that special Jesus, Mary, and Joseph as he pulled his shotgun off the rack in the living room. Called his congregation together, and he and the deacons did likewise. Never said a word during the course of that evening, but walked and sang hymns that had some very meaningful words to them, and monitored that jail all night long, protecting that brother who they knew was doomed to be hung. He saw at a very early age the difference between being cowardly and being a giant. And they had described his daddy as a coward because he was a peaceful man. That night, he saw the true giant that his father was. Through collective action, through speaking the truth to the power that they had and showing no fear, those men who walked without saying a word, but singing a song that delivered the message, saved the life of that man who was doomed to become strange fruit. And the next day, as the trial was being conducted, and I say trial in quotes, the sisters of the church sat in the balcony because that was the only place that you could occupy. They began to moan and to hum. And you who go to church, you know what a good moaning song sounds like. Now, as they began to moan, when the charges were being levied, the degree and the strength of the volume varied. There wasn't a gun taken in that courtroom that day, but the newly recognized power of peaceful disobedience was born in Crescent City, Florida. And when they said that although he was guilty, the crime was not going to be punished by lynching, that he would have to do time served on what is called a chain gang, they did a march from the church that reversed even that sentence, and that man went back to his family. Went back to his family. That's collective strength. That's recognizing the power that you have, and that's putting it to the use that it was designed to do. So Randolph, during the 12 years that it took to organize the sleeping car porters into a union, and then having to fight with the AFL-CIO to get recognized to be a part of the union movement, never lost the faith in what he was fighting for, but instead made it crystal clear that everyone has a place, in a place that is correct and right and just. And to this day, we all must fight for what is correct and right and just. And that's what these members of ATU do on a continuous basis, at least the ones that I've had the pleasure of meeting. Now, if you got some rotten people in your local, that's on you. You have the power of the vote in your local union. If you've got good people, I beg you, please don't tear them down. Please don't tear them down, okay? Because one of the things that we do inside the movement that I am still yet puzzled about is we will elect somebody and the next day we start ripping at them. And that goes from the shop steward who didn't volunteer to be a shop steward but got drafted because nobody else would take it, to the officers that are holding spaces that laid vacant for so long because nobody would step up and do it, to those of you who are physically active as staff and members, leaders throughout your union. Don't take what they do or say to you personally. Please don't. Because it's not just the ATU where that happens. It happens in all labor unions, but it also happens in all of the other organizations that are supposed to be organized around the belief. Sit on the wrong row in church and see what happened to you, okay? That same sister who's walking in with a cane becomes superwoman if you have sat in her seat on the bench that her family contributed money to put in that church. Am I making sense to you still? Yes. It's that kind of strength. And sisters, let me say this to you as well. It don't hurt to support another sister. Okay? I'm talking just to the women in the room. It does not hurt to support another sister. Only good things can happen from that. It's no good to be the only one because then you're just a target. It's all right to be first, but you better be pulling from the left and the right to pull somebody to come with you because otherwise they can see you all the time. Are we together still? Now, I'm doing these pieces specifically because those were the pieces that I was asked to do. But the last piece I want to do, and then I will take my seat, is this. For all that you do to build this union, pick people that you can trust. Pick people that you can trust. Trust is an amazing, amazing thing, and I have said this to just about every group that I've spoken to. I was married for almost 45 years, and now I have a husband, okay? And I'm not in mourning, I'm happy because I'm good, all right? But this man is a beautiful man, good looking, Lord have mercy. I'd look in his eyes and I would just melt. But early on, I should have known because I think we were married maybe 2 years, and I asked him for some money because I was an organizer getting ready to go out on J.P. Stevens' campaign. And I said, baby, can you give me a few dollars? I don't get paid till Thursday. This was a Tuesday. He looked at me with those good eyes and he said, I don't have any. I said, okay. And then he went on into the bathroom to take his shower. And on the way to the bathroom, he hung his pants up on the door. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And when he hung them up on the door and the door was pushed so that it kind of closed, the wallet fell on the floor. And when it fell, it kind of opened up a little bit. So Oscar knows I'm a tidy kind of person, so I picked the wallet up, and inside that wallet, Richard, was the most beautiful $50 bill I had ever seen. So I was determined I was not going to let the man that I was married to be a liar. All right? So he said he didn't have any money. When I left home, he didn't have any money, okay? So I say to you, pick the people that you can trust. Thank you, ATU, for having me. I love you guys. I appreciate being here. Thank you so very much.